Welcome everyone to another episode of Slasher Scotty. I am your host, Scotty McCoy, and boy, do I have a surprise for all of you. I have on Zoom with me right now, Trixy Valentine, and she is a drag queen superstar from my neck of the woods of Northeast Pennsylvania. Hey Trixy, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited. I've seen some of your work and it's so good. So thank you.
Not a problem. Glad to have you on. You look beautiful like always. So the first question I have, well, I guess before we start, we know that today is June 30th. It's the very last day of Pride. So why not end Pride with a bang? We don't need to kick it off with a bang. It always starts with a bang. So why not end it with a bang? So that's where you come into play, having you on my show. And let's ask, some people that are unfamiliar with the LGBTQIA plus community, and what Pride is about. Can you kind of explain to everybody that kind of wants to know, what is Pride and why do we celebrate it?
Yeah, so Pride historically is like where it all began was the Stonewall riots that happened in 1969. Actually, they happened on June 28th, so just 2 days ago was like the anniversary of it. And really, the Stonewall riots were a pushback to and police brutality for LGBTQIA individuals back in the day. And Pride then evolved into getting equal rights, getting fair treatment, to be seen and heard as individuals, that our sexuality and our gender and our expressions are seen as a way. I don't want to say normalized, but the Pride is continuing that motion of like, we're progressive, because back in those days, homosexuality was considered a disorder in the DSM-5, and then we had some other issues. It was only in 2015 when we had same-sex marriage equality. So it both is in a legal way and then also in a social way that we are pushing forwards to create this motion that we are all equal, we are all here, and it shouldn't be based off of our sexuality or gender on why we should be discriminated against. I will give a shout out because in our community, it's more diverse than what people think it is, right? Like, we have people of color also who are in the LGBTQIA plus community, where, they have intersecting identities of both race, sexuality, and gender that also need to be shown through, which is why we have different variations of the flag now. So
yeah, absolutely. Couldn't say it better myself. And I mean, it really is, like, a lot of people don't realize, and it's not like us as, like, I guess homosexuals of white race, like, they only have that, of being Caucasian, like, they only have that, like, homosexuality of inequality for them, like, where we're fighting for the equality. But they, like you said, it's very diverse, and a lot of people don't realize that there are people that have the African American, where you have the racists and the homophobics that are targeting them as well, and other races and other political beliefs and all these different things that really target the community a lot more, and it makes it really tough for other people that aren't of the Caucasian descent.
Yeah, because Pride is definitely, it doesn't just become a community-based thing, right? We have the LGBTQIA plus community, but it also becomes a personal thing too, because we want to show who we are in our own communities. Like, I'm part of the Asian American community, and I'm still queer in that community, and that still needs to be shown through. And then those who have different gender identities, what do that look like in their spaces, right? So, like, we're evolving and we're progressing, which is great, but Pride is definitely about that idea of, like, we are going to create the language that associates with us, because we need that language. We're going to do the research to show, like, where we are at and what needs and resources we need to develop to help us individually throughout our lifetime. Like, we're actually hitting a generation where we finally have LGBTQ elders. Like, what does that look like for us? So Pride is all about that motion of moving forward and showing, like, we're here, we've always been here, and we're honestly not taking crap anymore. We're like, we're gonna stand tall and loud and proud.
Absolutely. So one question I didn't have on, I know I sent you over a list of them to kind of prepare. One thing I didn't have on is, a lot of people, when they hear LGBTQIA plus, is like a mouthful, but they think of them as quote unquote letters, but they're not just letters. They all stand for something important in the community. So can you let us know what each letter really stands for and what it signifies for our community?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, the acronym there is it's a letter that represents an identity of some kind. So L for lesbian, B for bisexual, G for gay, T for transgender, I for intersex, Q for queer or questioning, A for asexuality or agender or just the asexual umbrella. There's a P for pansexual, and then the plus sign is really the additional letters that we don't really represent all the time
Right.
in the acronym. The plus sign is really the, individual identities that are becoming recreated. Like there's demisexual, there are different forms of ace identities. There are different forms of middle sex identities. And when I say middle sex, I mean like middle sexuality related to, could be bisexual, could be pansexual.
Okay.
It's really how people interpret themselves and articulate themselves and put whatever meaning is that. So each letter definitely represents a person's sexuality and gender identity for those who are not heterosexual or cisgender.
Right, absolutely. And I'm glad that we do have the plus, because it does become a mouthful saying all of them. It's obviously it's a respectful thing and that too, but like it does become a mouthful. Like I do have to take a breath like when I do say it, but there are so many things involved with this community that I myself don't even know. Like I think it was it which one was it? It might have been Q that I thought was like, that stands for questioning, right? You said.
Yeah, Q, so some of these letters represent more than one, but Q is for questioning or queer.
Okay.
So like questioning is that idea of like you go through this stage of questioning your own sexuality or even your gender, right? And
Right.
we get into that middle uh phase. I don't like call it a phase, but in this sense, I think phase can be used as a positive term of development. So
Right.
in the like middle phase of like, I'm not sure where I stand, but I know what I like. And then we get to like the different orientations, like sexual
Yeah.
orientation, romantic orientation, erotic
Right.
orientation. And when that happens, that people become questioning. We start going through, I don't, this is all confusing because I'm learning more about who I am. And
Absolutely.
yeah, so and then queer is a more common term both to say like the queer community, which is a little bit more of a modern term that younger generations are using to instead of saying the
Right.
acronym. But queer also can be a form of like, I know I'm not straight, but I know I'm queer, right? Like I don't
Right.
want to label to it, so that might be the word.
Okay.
Or no, I'm not cisgender, right? Or
Yeah.
and I might use the term like I'm gender queer. So
Yeah. Absolutely. And I know that like it used to be, at least back in the day, I don't know if it still is to an extent, but like when you called somebody a queer, it was like kind of an insult. So we're kind of now taking that and we're making it our own, which is
yeah.
which I like, because I don't, why should we be, we shouldn't take these derogatory terms, and that we should make it and use it to embrace it, make it a positive term.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the word queer, I would definitely have to agree. It is one of those terms that used to be derogatory, negative. In some places, it still is. But there are other people and people in our community who are like, no, this word is mine, and I'm reclaiming the word.
Right. Absolutely. So also for those that are unfamiliar or uneducated, can you let them know what the purpose of drag is? What is it about? Yeah.
So drag is personalized, right? And there's many different ways to drag. A good book that I would like to consider people. Oh, can I show
Yes,
illustrate?
absolutely. Yep.
So this is a great book. It's called The Art of Drag. There are 4 different authors. It just came out not too long ago. I recommend this book for anyone that wants to learn more about drag because it shows the history and different
Yeah.
styles of drag. But drag essentially actually starts and has roots in different cultures,
Yeah.
but the modern form of drag actually comes from our LGBTQIA plus people of color and the ballroom scenes, and shows
Right.
this idea of expressing who we are in different ways.
Mhm.
RuPaul also helped form a little bit about what drag is turning into in a
Yeah.
different angle, but with how I understand drag and how I do drag and why it's here for me and others is a form of expression, right? We have these ideas of what femininity looks like, what masculinity looks like, what androgyny looks like, and we take these understandings and expressions, and we exaggerate them. We make them more. We make them come real. We make them come to life. Like this jewelry I'm wearing is like, it's an exaggeration. Like, while this looks like a good day piece, I would not wear this every day. It's just, but it's nice, it looks good. This hair is high, it's good, it's colorful. Like all of that is a form of art and a performance art to show people like, I'm a powerful individual, and drag has allowed to honestly push back on some of these narratives that we're told about, like, you know, only men, right, can be masculine. Actually, no, that's not true. Or feminine have to be feminine. No, that's not true either, right? So we're pushing back on these norms with drag. Drag is essentially both an art, and then it also can be used in an activist way of showing like, I'm here.
Absolutely. And it's funny because like I started, I have a Comcast down here in Maryland now. I didn't lie. I am from Northeast Pennsylvania. I moved to Maryland, obviously, but I have Comcast down here, and obviously I can't watch all the earlier episodes of it because you got to pay $1.99 every episode, and there's like how many seasons and how many episodes, and I'm not breaking the bank for that. But I have like this, like I think like the most recent like 2 seasons, like or whatever, like you get like the whole thing for free or whatever it is, and I've been watching some of that, and I think it's really interesting. Like I never really appreciated it before, and I mean I personally, I wouldn't do drag. I mean, I'm just, and it's not nothing against drag community or that. I'm just not a creative person in that aspect. My creativity goes into writing and acting in that form. I'm not a design type of person. Like I mean, if you look what I'm wearing a Halloween shirt and these like very stained shorts. Like that is even when I go out, like my parents are like, aren't you ashamed of going out with greasy hair, going to the store with greasy hair, pajama bottoms, and literally like a ripped shirt? I'm like, I really don't care. That's just how I am. I've always been that way. So I'm not even with being a web developer, like I'm a developer, I'm not a web designer, because I can make a website look pretty, but it takes a lot more effort on my end because I am a developer. I don't make things look pretty, I make things work, that type of thing. So
yeah, no, that makes complete sense because I'm really bad with technology. So like strength and positive here. There's also like so many different forms of drag that my recommendation, if anyone is thinking about starting drag, they should definitely do what they love and what they know internally, like because you know yourself best, and just like people just need to give their self that permission to do it, right? A lot of people are like, how do you get into drag? I'm like, well, did you give yourself the permission? Because I can't grant that to you.
Right.
Like, you have to be willing to do it. But there's so many different drag forms and styles. Like, there's also like the Boulet brothers Dragula, right? There's a style of drag that
right up my alley, the horror drag.
Right. Yeah. So like drag works perfectly in this setting, in that sense. And there's drag kings, drag queens, drag performers, androgynous performers. Like again, for anyone, get the book for the art of drag. But like it is so important to know when anyone wants to do drag, thinking about drag, like A, don't make a mockery of other people when doing it. Like have the intentions that it's yours and it's your piece.
Right.
Then B, like don't be afraid to get messy, like whatever that may look like. So don't be afraid that your makeup's gonna look. When you get into it, just get into it, see how it. And if you like it, do it. And if you want to get better, talk to people.
Absolutely. And I mean, looking for I mean, I was looking through your one social media for your Trixy Valentine social media, and I was looking at like which one do I want to use for the promo video and all that, and which one do I want to use for the YouTube thumbnail. And I'm thinking it was so hard to choose because like you have a lot of pretty outfits. Like I might not be able to design good, so I wouldn't be good at being drag, but I can see which is pretty. At least to me, it's my sense of what is pretty. Everybody's taste might be different. Like what I liked for the promo flyer might have been somebody else's not their cup of tea type of thing. But for me, like you had so many colorful things, and I like that. I like the colorful outfits and the colorful hair, and that the one I settled on, I was like, I like that one. I really do. I really like that one. So
I actually, that is one of my favorite looks. So the look that you chose for this promo pic, when I saw it, I was like, yes, because it's inspired by two concepts, the 80s. I love the big hair, the dramatic makeup. And then it was actually, the outfit was based off of the bisexual pride flag. The colors of pink, blue, and magenta. Nice. And, you know, purple, blue, and magenta. Sorry. And with that, like like that is one of my favorite looks you picked. So you picked a good one. Like as an
Awesome.
action shot, I feel
Glad.
like I feel like a badass up in that photo.
I really like that picture and that look. It really was great. Like, and it's funny because, like, again, mentioning about me doing drag, like for Halloween, I was Cruella de Vil, and I was gonna come on as Cruella, but I was so busy today. But I like for my Halloween. If you look at it, like, oh my god, like I had the heels and all that. Like, I didn't even know what size heel I was, so I had to like get like 3 different ones before I had to return 2 of them. But like even putting like when I had to put the lipstick on for Halloween and the eyeshadow, like I almost poked my eye out and putting the lipstick on. I was getting it all over my face. Like I don't know why I couldn't do it. It really is a talent. Like it really is something that you have to be creative. You don't have to be, but I mean it's a plus, and it really is an art form. And I really think it's something that is underappreciated and really should be appreciated and looked more into. Absolutely. So, what got you into drag and wanting to perform?
So for drag, for me, it originally started because I was one of those. So I've been doing drag for 7 years. I started in 2014.
Nice.
And I just thought to myself, like, when I was in high school, I was in the marching band. I did color guard. I did theater in high school. I also, for a few years, danced with Antipode, which is a geek ballet
Mhm.
dance troupe that does cosplay, and I absolutely love them. But with all of those things, I was still trying to find me and myself. I was still trying to look at myself and be like, there's still an aspect of this performance that I get, but why do I like performing? What about it? What is the exhilarating and exciting thing? So my first 2 experiences with drag, I will give it out to RuPaul's Drag Race because I watched season 3, and when I watched Manila Luzon sing against Delta Work,
Nice.
watching it as like a young 20 queer person who's learning to discover my identities,
Right.
saw that, and I was like, I felt more than just this lip sync,
Mhm.
more than just this pretty look. They gave emotions, and I felt emotions with that. And
Right.
so with that, I just thought, oh my God, I love this. And then I went to my first drag show in person around the same time. They had one of those like above 18 but below 21 as long as you wear a
Mhm.
wristband, right? And
Yeah.
so I went there and saw this drag queen come out, and seeing it in person, it was a whole different experience. It was one of those feelings, if you have one of those feelings like when you were a kid and your
Mhm.
parents are like, no, you can't wear that, you can't do that, and it kind of takes the fun out of the way. At least I should say, I don't know if everyone has that. I have that experience, right? Like my mom's like, no,
Yeah.
you can't wear that, boys don't wear that, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I thought I looked good. And then
Mhm.
but seeing that, it was like empowerment. There was this energy that was shown through. And for me, I was like, oh my God, I want that. Like I can feel that.
Mhm.
So when I got into drag the first time, a few things happened, like a lot of things, feelings, things I've never felt before. Like when I put my first dress on, it was one of those moments that I just said, oh my God, I feel pretty. I feel
Mhm.
pretty in a way I've never felt pretty before. I want
Right.
this. I want to express this. How?
Mhm.
And this idea of feminine energy that I naturally have started coming out. My
Yeah.
mannerisms became to be more fluid. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. Now, if people see me back from 7 years ago, I did not look this pretty, but I felt this pretty. Like I
Right.
felt this gorgeous. It didn't matter. And then stepping on stage, like
Mhm.
all the activities I used to do as a kid to perform in front of audience now was just solely based on me. And
Yeah.
I'm telling a story. I'm giving emotions and power to other people in front of me. And that's what kicked it off. Like that's what caused me to just catalyst of continuing to do it. This idea of I'm telling a story, but I'm telling my story all the
Yeah.
time. And I see people's faces and they're happy, they're sad with me, they're yesing, right? Like that we see, or
Mhm.
they're over here like, you get it, girl, you're up there. We
Mhm.
know exactly what you're saying, why you're saying, and how you're saying it. And
Right.
then like my catchphrase, my motto is like live your fantasy, because essentially that's what got me into drag. I'm living a
Yeah.
fantasy because I don't look like this every day. This would be too much work to look like every day.
Right.
all
I
of
can
it.
verify.
Right. So I'm living my fantasy every time I'm in drag, but I'm making it a reality. And then like the biggest thing I think drag helped me with was finding my own voice. I found
Yeah.
my confidence, like I truly became a different person, and then I learned how to channel who I was into who I am outside of drag.
Right.
And I've got a voice, and I'm speaking up for the youth, and I'm speaking up for other people in my
Mm.
community. Like, this
Yeah.
is not okay. We need to be treated fairly. Like, if we want to express how we want to express themselves, we should be able to do that. So drag, long story short, drag was that moment of
Yeah.
finding myself in an art form I
Mhm.
didn't know I needed until I did it, until I saw it.
Right. And I can verify because I've known you pretty much at the beginning of your drag. Like we met like how many years ago? I know it was before my dad was diagnosed with brain cancer and he was diagnosed in 2016. Because I remember my parents were camping. They were at the camper or whatever, and that's when around the time we met. We became friends in that, and that was at least 2014, 2015, which is when you started your drag career. Because I remember you're like I've seen you grow. I've seen like what you do now is so much prettier, no offense, to what you did back when you started,
Well,
which is growth. Like that's how everybody's
yeah.
gonna be. Like everybody grows.
We become polished. That's the term we
Mhm.
use. Like we become
Yes.
polished, redefined,
Yes.
fined, and tuned. And then it's a glow up, right? Like you
Mhm.
glow up. Like you're like, oh, I thought I looked good. And then you're like, just kidding, I can do better. Takes time and time of practice. So
Right.
you
Yeah.
definitely have seen me come from,
Mhm.
ooh, does she belong here, to no, she's now the one running everything.
Now you're on Slasher Scotty as a drag queen superstar. But exactly, I agree with that. And I mean, you're so educated, just not even as in drag itself, but in the community itself, and with human sexuality and gender identity. Like you really are so educated with all of that. Do you want to let everybody, I know personally, but do you
Oh
want to let
yeah,
everybody
yeah.
know how you got that
So
way?
yeah, so outside of drag, I do a few different things. I'm a medical HIV case manager, so I help people living with HIV. So I'm very
Mhm.
well rounded in that field. But also, I'm a queer inclusive sex educator. I just got my master's from Widener University in human sexuality education, and I'm going for my PhD.
Nice.
I'm actually just started my dissertation in human sexuality philosophy. So
Awesome.
I definitely found my passion in knowing about sexuality and gender diversity, the idea of sex not being a taboo thing and being sex liberal and sex positive, right? Like
Mhm.
that on the outside like helps me like
Yeah.
become a little bit more educated, and then like my own personal experiences talking to other individuals
Yeah.
like who are in the same area, and I'm like experiences and education in
Mhm.
reading a little bit more and admitting accountability when we are unlearning things, like all
Yeah.
of that has allowed me to go off. So
Awesome. So I know that there's a lot of criticism when it comes to pronouns. A lot of people, I've seen so many things on WNEP's posts from people commenting about, for example, Demi Lovato coming out as non-binary and all that stuff. And people like, it's not that I don't think it's that they're trying to be ignorant. I mean, maybe there are some, but like they're just uneducated. They don't know what non-binary and binary and all that stuff is. They don't know what these pronouns are. Can you like let people know who aren't aware like what these different types of pronouns are and what they mean and what they stand for? Because I'll be honest, I personally don't get the pronoun thing. Like, not that I don't judge them or criticize them for it, I just don't understand its meaning.
yeah, no, that makes sense. I know I was just on PA Live back in
Mhm.
January. I'm on every month, but in January we did a segment on
Yes.
pronouns, and I got a lot of backlash because my pronouns are they, he,
Right.
right? And so what does that mean? And I'm in drag right now, so my pronouns are she. Like
Right.
so there are an understanding of pronouns for many different reasons. One of the biggest reasons, because it's not always, well, I'll just say this. It's a person's gender sometimes or most of the time will, how they identify, who they are as a person goes with a pronoun or a way of thinking, right? Because
Mhm.
pronouns have two meanings. The first is just referring to an individual, like that's it. That's what a pronoun is. It refers to another individual. It's the
Right.
basic level. And with that, because like I and you can be pronoun we, but then like the pronouns we're talking about are more personalized ones. So she, he, and they are the three top common, which
Okay.
each have a significant difference. And the difference is because those pronouns are typically gendered.
Okay.
And when they're gendered, they put an expectation on a person, or an assumption on a person, right? And so using pronouns like she means that someone may be more feminine. It could mean that they're a woman. It could be whatever their reason is for using the pronoun she. And then you can think of he, that's more of a masculine pronoun, a lot of
Mhm.
times associated with male or male identified people,
Mhm.
or men. And then it could also be for honestly how whoever wants to use the word or pronoun he. And then there's they as a gender neutral pronoun. There are actually many other gender neutral pronouns like zir, here, here, like, and those may just sound like
Okay.
words to people, but they're gender neutral pronouns. They're just not as commonly known,
Okay.
but people do use them. But like that's a gender neutral pronoun, and the reason why we call it a gender neutral pronoun is because when you say they, and it is a singular pronoun, you don't get a depiction of a gender all the time up here, like mentally, like in our minds and our psyches. Like we can, in a sense, when we think about androgyny, sometimes they can be for those who are androgyny. I'm non-binary, so I like to use the term they because when I hear the word he, it typically is just associating with that I was assigned male at birth, and I'm like, great, I'm glad you know based off of how I may appear. Sometimes I was assigned male at birth, even though nobody actually knows. I just look that characteristic in a way.
Okay.
Um, so pronouns allow individuals to tell the world, like, this is who I am, and I should be respected as such in a way. So pronouns are just, how do you refer to somebody? Well, like anyone, how we refer to people, we have to know the person.
Mhm.
And that's the harder challenge. And I think that a lot of the times when we're having these conversations, because there is a slight uneducated or ignorance to the idea of pronouns. And I'm a person that I'll never shame someone for not knowing, right? Like, I'm like, nope, like you don't understand, but I'm here to talk to you. Not everyone is like that, and I get
Yeah.
that. But for me, when I tell people about pronouns, it's how are you going to address me without knowing me? Like, you don't
Okay.
know me. So why are you using the pronoun he? And
Mhm.
when we get into those actual conversations, we're breaking down much more than what a pronoun is. We're breaking
Mhm.
down social norms, social rules. We're breaking down different stereotypes, right? And typically is associated with my assigned sex at birth and my gender. It also can relate to my sexuality and different forms of cultural differences, right? So,
Okay.
because there are different words that mean different things to specific people. So it really comes down, if you want to understand why are we using pronouns or what is the purpose of using pronouns, it really comes down to because we were respecting other people, we're
Mhm.
understanding like they're telling us who they
Mhm.
are, so we're not assuming who they are,
Yep.
and pronouns are just a way to be like, oh, you want to be addressed this way, awesome, like
Mhm.
move on. And it is, for me, it is one of those like, can we just move on from this
Right.
conversation about pronouns? Can we really talk about why someone's hung up that they can't use my pronouns, right?
Right.
Like what? And I hate saying it that way because it kind of changes the narrative more about them and not LGBTQIA individuals. But for
Mhm.
me personally, I want to resolve that idea of like when people are like, well, you look like this. I'm like, well, I may look like this, but why can't they pronoun look like this?
Right. Makes
And
sense.
that's what it comes down to. It's like,
Yeah.
why can't we challenge the idea of what we know to who people are?
Right. So I guess that goes to my next question. Say, I don't know, say this guy named John is working as a fast food cashier, and and you come into his into the store to order. Obviously, when you work, I worked at McDonald's, you have to say ma'am or sir. So obviously that could break those type of norms. Now, how would somebody, I guess there's a two-part question. The first part would be is it appropriate and okay to ask somebody what their pronouns are, and which way would be the right way or the appropriate and respectful way to ask them? And two, how would you like how would you go about like for example with you, like if they are like a they them type of pronoun, how would you go about referring to them instead of saying sir, ma'am?
So I'll start with the first question, which
Okay.
is how do we ask, or is it okay to ask someone's pronoun? And yes, it is okay to ask someone's pronouns or maybe different forms of identity and the understanding we want to address them as who they are.
Right.
But it's really does come down to how are you asking and what is your reasoning for asking?
Exactly, because some people can get offended that you're asking because they're like, I look like a man, so I'm a man. They might think like, are you trying to insult them? And you don't want to do that neither.
So one of the best ways that I know when I want to ask someone's pronoun so it really comes down to how well do I know them, because there are certain people in my life I was like I know them, but I don't really know them in a way like they're an acquaintance, right? I know their name. I've seen them on
Yeah.
social media. We've had one or two interactions together, but I never got to be like, oh, I don't know what their pronouns are, and I don't know anyone that could know that. So with that way, I might be not as formal. So I might just be like, hey, we've talked a few times. I just wanted to make sure I was getting your pronouns right, if that's okay. Would you be okay answering that? And then typically I'd follow up with like what my pronouns were. So there was an understanding. And when we ask like, would you be okay with that? Or we're giving them the permission to say yes or no, because we shouldn't be like, I need to know your pronouns. Like
Right.
you don't need to know someone's pronouns, right? You should be addressing, if someone doesn't want to tell you their pronouns, like there are other ways that we can address them in respect, right? So
Yeah.
like we can keep it gender neutral completely. We can just address them with no pronouns that are gender specific, so we can go with that person over there. We can use their name, right? So there are different ways to do that. A more formal way, so like if I didn't necessarily know you, and I was like, ooh, I want to make sure I get this person's pronouns right, or I want to respect who they are. Like I'd be like, hi, my name is Trixie, my pronouns are she. Would you mind telling me yours? And it's still in a way that like that's how I would ask, because I want it in a way that doesn't come off very like, tell me your pronouns, I need to know them, right?
Right.
Like that's like you're a stranger, you don't know me, because you can be
Right.
like, I don't know her, I'm okay not telling.
Right.
And you can be just like, I'm not comfortable with that,
Right.
right? So there are different ways to ask, but like the more formal way, the best practice way for those is like, giving that permit, like asking, but not in a way that's not accusatory. Like I like you think, because when I hear someone ask for my pronouns once in a while, I'm go, why are you asking me so like directly? And it's because, and it is come down to that idea of it's an ignorance sounds so negative, because I know they're trying to be respectful, right? Like I know they want to respect me. So sometimes like as a non-binary person, many of us are used to being like, yeah, we know people are going to ask for my pronouns. Some days I'm like, yeah, I'm willing to tell anyone. Other days I was like, I'm exhausted because I had 20 other people today ask me, and like
Yeah.
I just don't want to say it. Like I'm good. Like at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm fine. I don't really feel comfortable telling you at this time, but we can probably talk later, right? Or
Yeah.
whatever the case may be.
Absolutely.
So
So
that was the
yep.
first question. The
Yep.
second question was, more gender neutral way. So when it comes to servers or like customer service, for me, I've worked in customer service, so I give them, the employee, the benefit of the doubt all the time.
Yeah.
Like I'm over here like, you're just trying to do your best day, your job. Like you showed
Right.
up today and like here you are. Like I work with clients all the time, so it's kind of the same way in an aspect. So I'm over here like, you called me sir, like I'll move on, in the sense
Yeah.
that's just me. um and it really does come with that aspect of they're working, like I'm
Yeah.
here, and stuff, but at the same time they can, that agency, that company, whatever, they can go through cultural competency trainings, they can go through diversity.
Okay.
And if someone needs to greet me with like welcome ma'am or welcome sir, they can welcome with like welcome guest, right? I'm a
Okay.
guest. So you can just say welcome guest, or you can just say hello friend, right? Like make it a friendly welcome, you
Okay.
know, whatever that might be, you know.
Yeah.
And so that is a gendered form right there, right?
Right.
So not a sir or ma'am, it's a guest, it's a friend.
Right.
um, and a lot of there's many others I'm sure out there, but those are the top two I can think of
Yeah.
like how to address somebody without needing to
Hmm.
be gendered.
Right. And I do know that there's a lot of that now, especially with the non-binary and, all these pronouns coming to surface and like becoming a thing in this world now. Like there is a lot of that being taught in these type of industries, whether it's fast food or retail, whether it's in, any type of workplace that you deal with clientele, like, because you don't want to offend anybody, because if you offend somebody, that can affect them coming back to your business, and that can obviously hurt the company you're working for. So you obviously want to be as respectful as possible.
And also, like when we offend someone, we're also hurting the other person that was offended in a way.
Yeah.
Um, so like we want to think about all people involved, like not
Mhm.
just who they work for and their employment, but like the other person's existence.
Absolutely.
And we need to make sure we're validating like that person. And,
Mhm.
and when I say validation, we don't need to give gold stars out. Uh,
Right.
but we have to see like this is a person, this is
Yeah.
who they are, and they exist. They
Yeah.
exist. Like
Yep.
we can't argue that someone doesn't exist when they're right in front of us.
Right, exactly. And sometimes, that person might be having a very bad day, and you reaching out to them and being kind and referring to them the way they would like to be referred to, by their proper pronouns, could really change them from having a very bad, pissy mood to a very happy mood because somebody respected them.
Yeah, I actually just had actually it happened today. I was at
Really?
work and we were in one of those group messages with coworkers and stuff.
Yeah.
And I made a comment. It was a good time. And one of my coworkers, yeah, I agree with them. And I was
Hmm.
like, oh, thank you. Like they called me them, and
Right.
it was the first time in a long time
Hmm.
that like where I work, that one of my coworkers addressed me the way I wanted to be addressed.
Right.
And that made me like the rest of the day, I'm sitting here like, do you
Right.
need something? I'll go get you coffee. Like I'm over here, like
Right.
my energy just went up because I was addressed. I wasn't just addressed the way I was. I was seen. I was
Yeah.
seen who I was, and
Absolutely.
strangers can do that without like unintentionally, and that's one of the best things that we can. That's why it's important to educate ourselves and make ourselves aware.
Absolutely. So we are at the end of Pride Month. We know that every year during this month, a lot of people that are struggling to come out, or they find a way to come out, or they do come out, and they make it an importance or a significance because of the month that we're in, for obvious reasons. Of course, we explained that earlier why Pride is so important. So there are some, like, probably people that might be watching this that are struggling to come out. Because don't forget, like, I mean, I reach a lot, like, a wide demographic, where somebody from California might be watching this because they like to watch this type of stuff, and they might be struggling. Like, I know I'm gay, or I know I'm bi, or I know, I'm this, that, or the other, and they don't know how to properly like come out because they're afraid of how their parents or their acquaintances or their colleagues or their friends or family or whatever will think about that. So somebody that is afraid to come out, how any advice for them and how they can come out to their loved ones or come out to their friends or their acquaintances, colleagues, without like, because we know suicide rate is obviously up because of this too. So we want people to feel safe to come out, but is there any advice that you can give them to kind of be like, this is a safe way to do it, or this is a way that you could possibly do it that you know might not make it as scary, I guess is the word I'm looking
Great question, I have to say, because when you sent me them, this was one of my favorite questions that
for.
you were going to ask. But with coming out, the first thing is you never stop. I'll just say that, right? That
Mhm.
is one of the most forward things is, but we're definitely in this aspect, we definitely are talking about more of that first time because it
Yes.
does sometimes get easier for us as
Hmm.
for individuals. We come out all the time to people, like someone who
Yeah.
doesn't, I'm like, oh yeah, this is who I am, and I just
Yeah.
came out. It makes it more. But for these
Exactly.
first moments, whether it's your family, maybe a friend, coworker, whoever it may be, like coming out. My first thing is if you know you won't be safe, like physical violence is going to happen. You may lose your home. So that's really comes down to like LGBT youth. The youth really like my advice there is don't come out if you're not safe. And the reason for that is your safety comes first. You want to be safe, and it is one of those hard realities for LGBTQIA individuals to be like, that's the truth. Like if we're not safe, we can't come out. And that does take a lot of toll. There's a lot of trauma that can build up from that, depending on what comes from that. But unfortunately, the hard reality is like my best advice is if you are not safe, don't come out right away or right now. Wait, just wait, because your safety matters. But with that on the other side, if someone does feel safe and they feel like they need to or want to, they just are feeling that vulnerability, they're feeling shame, they're even feeling that sensitivity of fear. There's a lot of different ways to come out. And one of the ways is finding clues, right? Finding whoever you're calling it. How do they feel about LGBTQIA plus individuals? I tell people all the time, like, use me as an example. I'm a leader in my community. I'm well known. So I'm like, someone can be like, how do you feel about Trixie? How do you feel about Jake? Right? Like, and that person might, like, depending on what they bring up, you know, they might be like, oh, no, oh God. And like that negativity, like, ooh, is it because they're queer? Is it because they're gay? Like, is it because they're not? Like, what is it? And you can get a sense there, like, ooh, this might not be that good. That doesn't mean you can't come out. That just gauges a level of like, what is this going to look like? I know with my own parents, like my father, this one time I was watching TV when I was younger, and like he made a very derogatory term with like a commercial that happened with two women and stuff. And I was like, okay, well, this will be interesting, right? So, you know, there is that reality. It doesn't make it impossible. It just lets us be aware of like what's going on. But one of the things is you can do it face to face, right? Like sit down and make, like when someone comes out, you're making about you in a way that you like, I need to tell you this because I'm tired of hiding. I like whatever the reasoning, say the reasoning, right? Because when you give that reasoning, it sometimes invites the person to truly open their ears and mind and like listen. There's the form of empathy that can happen, because a lot of the times when we come out, we can make it relatable to others who are not part of the community when we tell them like, have you ever felt afraid before to be yourself? Everyone has that story. Everyone has a vulnerability moment. So when we are talking at these conversations, bring up that vulnerability and make it relatable to the person you're talking to, because that might give you a chance for them to connect. You might connect with them and then come out in whatever way that looks like. I've also seen it on where people like, this is who I am, like I'm here, like there's no stopping me. And you know, I like, that's it. They take off and like, you know, there could be backlash that happens, but you know, they don't let it stop them in a way. Or, you know, people are like, okay, you're here. And I'm a person like, I get it, you're here, get it, live it. You know, when you get to that moment of like calming down, like, okay, you came out, we're good, you're riding the same flow as us now. Like, people just need to just do it. They need to open the door, they need to rip off the Band-Aid. And then the other I would say is social media. I have mixed feelings on coming out on social media because it can be both positive and toxic, because trolls live on social media. Like
you do.
And sometimes like we worry about those elder or distant family relatives, right? Like who might see and then judge us. But the good news is you're not around me, hopefully. Like you're not, like it shouldn't matter. You can unfriend me, block me. It's not my day moves on, and we can have an actual conversation later if it bothers you. But social media can be a way of like posting it, right? Posting a nice post. You know, like I'm here. There's something I've always wanted to say. In social media, you can get creative with coming out in that way. You can also get creative if you do it in an art form. You know, like drag, right? So although I will say not all people in drag are part of the LGBTQIA community. You do not have to be part of the LGBTQIA community to be in drag, but essentially some people learn who they are in drag, and that might build their confidence. Drag gave me the confidence to find my voice. So there are other methods of art and performances that can do the same. So
absolutely. Now, I mean, one thing I could say is I didn't. Now this is a personal story on me. And you might already know this. I might have told you this a long time ago, but I personally never had the chance to come out. I was 18-ish, 19-ish, and I was dating this guy. I was living in Anacoke at the time. I was at Luzerne County Community College. I was attending school up there, and my parents were going on a New York bus trip, and I needed to, dog sit. I lived in Anacoke. My boyfriend lived in Monte City. So I ended up going to my parents to dog sit, and they were going to be gone for like, I think it was like a weekend or whatever, because I had to go back up, Sunday night for the school on Monday. And I figured it would be this brilliant idea to bring my boyfriend over to their house, and we'd have the place or the weekend to ourselves. And because my parents, they were in New York City, they were on a bus trip. There was no way they were coming back, right or wrong. So the bus ended up, I guess, having some type of technical difficulties. And I, of course, didn't know this. My parents never called me to tell me they were coming home. I mean, it was more of like, why would they tell me? It's their house. I'm dog sitting. Like, they don't expect me to have anybody there that I can, quickly rush out. Well, my parents end up coming home, and they find me in their bed, because I didn't have a bed at the time. I slept on a couch. They found me in their bed making love to my boyfriend. And that's how they found out I was gay. So that's, to this day, they are more lenient with me being gay, but they don't approve or accept me being gay. And that probably is like 95% of the reason why, because they got that mental image that they can't get out of their brain. And the fact that I didn't even have the respect to tell them from the beginning of why I'm gay. And like a lot of people that aren't out, I'm basically telling the stories because there are people that are not out that, that live, say, with their parents. And I don't want something like this to happen to them. So like, be careful and cautious, because if you don't get the chance to come out, your family may not come around to accept it, because they didn't get the respect of you telling them that yourself.
Right. There is stories and dialogue around similar ones to you of, why didn't you tell me? Why did I have to find out this way? There is that, but I always tell people in those narratives, it's not about them, it's about you. So redirecting that lens of like, I understand you feel some kind of way. We can talk about it, and building that bridge if possible, right? Like for me, I actually never came out to my parents. I was outed. So I was outed in high school. And then with my parents, I was outed as well. And it got hard because like I never had a full-on conversation with my parents regarding I've actually never came out to my parents with my gender identity. Just for reasons of like, I don't want that energy of explaining all of this to them. Like it's just, that's too much work for me. Like I'm content. It's a sacrifice. I'm like, oh, this is who I am to them. And as of right now, until I find, internal solitude and internal resilience of like wanting to tell them I'll get there. But right now I'm like, there's too many other things, good things that are happening in my life, that right now I'm okay with my parent not telling my parents, right? I'm not saying it's perfect, because they do things still. I'm like, that's an issue. But that's my issue at right now, because I don't say anything, and I have to learn how to build and do whatever the internal process is.
So do your parents like know about the drag and that you're in the LGBTQ and all that community? I'm assuming they know all that then.
My dad is a huge supporter of my drag. I absolutely love him. My mom, she knows I do drag. She's not a super huge supporter. She's sometimes in denial. When it comes to my sexuality and stuff, they've actually both have met different partners of mine when I was dating and stuff. And my dad just considers everyone my friend. So has he come totally full circle of like, oh, okay. No, but he's also not like, he's not hateful. He's like, oh, come in, like, do you want food? And then he always goes, is that your friend? Like, actually, it's my partner, like we do things and stuff. And then my mother, it's a little bit complicated. Again, my mom actually sometimes still thinks I date women from time to time. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I don't.
Right.
Gay, like that's not a thing for me. But so, and does she know? Yeah, she's she's met two of my partners before. Okay. So I'm like, hi. And she's like, who's that? And I was like, oh, we're dating. And she's like, do you want dinner? Like moves on to the next subject, like doesn't want to talk about it and stuff. So there are differences. Have I told them? Yeah, in my own ways, but I've never had that moment of needing to sit down and be like, this is like, because whether for me, for myself, whether they approve or not, I don't care. Like, as long as they still see me as their child and respect me.
And that's how it is with my parents. They always said that they would disown me before I was even out. If I were ever gay or whatever like that, they would all, because I guess they had hints and everything and deeply kind of knew. But like they disowned me maybe for 3 months after finding out because of the way they found out. But ultimately it worked out. We became close again and we still are. When I talk to them about my life and my love life or my sex life or whatever, and they kind of like tolerate it. They don't like push it off, but it's one of those things. If they tell me to stop talking about it because I want them to respect me and my life choices, because I'm an adult and my own human, I would also respect their choices, whether I agree with what they say or not. Like, it's their opinion. I want to respect them just like I want them to respect me.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, ultimately, like, that's how, I mean, that's the way it is. Like you said with your mom, like she wants to move on to the next subject. Okay. I'll respect your decision because it's your choice and that's what you want. So I'm going to respect you, but I would also like you to respect me and my choices.
Right. And when it comes down to that, because have I had huge arguments with my mom about things like this? Yes. But at the same time, like I've grown, right? So I would say when I was first coming out, it was very difficult because I found a lot of anger and resentment. Like, how do I handle this? And then as I got older and as I started learning more about myself, like the only person's approval I need in life is myself.
Right.
Absolutely. As long as I wake up every day knowing I love who I am and I feel confident in a way to express myself, like I can't, like it's not every day I can wake up and be like, I'm amazing. Like we all have hard days, but as long as I'm like, no, I love myself, I'm beautiful.
Right.
Like I don't like I don't believe in this idea of like if someone in your family is too toxic, like you don't need that. That's easier said than done, right? There are different ways to do things. So
absolutely,
for me, I did learn like self-love is waking up every day and saying I respect who I am as a person and I respect what I'm doing. And that's enough for me to look at some of these other situations and be like, I don't need it.
Right. And this is more directed towards people that may know of people that are gay or closeted or even have suspicions. One thing I'll give you some advice, like if you, and I'm not saying anybody watching this is like that, but don't be a dick and out people, because that not only ruins friendships and families and relationships, but it also causes them to feel neglected and betrayed and like, vulnerable. And that is why, LGBTQIA plus people kill themselves and commit suicide because of this type of action. And you don't want people to, we don't want people adding themselves to a statistics list because of people that are going to be assholes and literally like out people,
And when it comes to outing, like and stuff like that, it's none of their business. It's not you. That is not your book. Put that book down. Like you're just here to read it. You're not writing it. Like
right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I couldn't say it better myself. Like just like that, it just boils down to respect. Like if you, like I always say, like if you have a problem with me being gay, are you marrying a man? Are you sleeping with a man? Are you dating a man? Are you kissing a man? No, you're not. I am. You're not. So it doesn't affect you in any way, shape, or form. So I'm not going to flaunt it in your face. So how about you kind of, turn around and move the other way and don't look at me if it bothers you that much. You don't have to interact with me. Point blank. If my real friends, my real family, my real partners, my real anything, they will, my fans, everybody, they will respect me because of me. They're not like everybody that knows us knows I'm gay. Like the ones that watch my podcast, they know I'm gay. And the ones that keep watching me and keep, you know, being in my movies and keep interacting with me, they respect me because they know I'm creative, they know I'm talented, they know I provide entertainment, they know they like my material and my content, and they will keep, they want to be a part of that. If you aren't a part of that and you don't appreciate or like my, you know, my background or anything, then you don't have to watch my show, you don't have to listen to my show, you don't have to watch any of my movies, but like you don't have to go on there and comment and leave ignorant remarks and all that stuff, because in the end, that's how people end up getting, you know, getting their careers shot, you know.
Yeah, and you putting LGBTQIA plus individuals still vulnerable. Like we can still be
Yes.
fired in
Yeah.
certain areas just for who we are.
Yeah,
And
and it might be illegal to fire somebody that's LGBTQIA, but it isn't illegal if they can find a way to say why you were fired, and they don't say that's the reason. So that it could be the reason without you even knowing.
and discrimination still happens. Like
Yes.
people still say no, you can't have access to this. Where I live, like I didn't even know this, but in the one town next to me, drags it's no longer technically was illegal, right? Because the ordinance that was originally put in place was that you can't do female or male impersonations if that's not how you were born, right? And it was under this adult entertainment thing. But like, good thing is when I did drag shows there, I was like, I thought someone was kidding. They were like, technically, you're it's illegal what you're doing, and I'm sitting there like, yeah, okay. And then the ordinance came up, and I'm like, oh no, they weren't kidding. Good for me. Like, I'm okay with this. So, but because of that drag show, it got brought up at the town council in the town, and they changed it. So like there was that change. That's a positive moment. But like if I didn't know or someone didn't tell me, but like I was actually just dressed like this walking down the street or something, like that would be considered an issue, right?
Wow. So what if I can ask live, I mean on the show, like you don't have to say it, we could just private message on Facebook or something about it, but which town is this?
I don't want to say because it's a good town.
Okay.
It's one that is changing, it's progressing. So I don't want to put like negativity out there.
Right.
But it is progressing, and so a lot of it is to other people like myself in the town, like pushing back on these things. But like the ordinance itself is from the 80s. So and I'm sure other towns have these ordinance, but paying attention to them and why, who's using, who's weaponizing them, and who is like thinking, oh, this doesn't matter, we can keep it the same. Can we? Do people know that like changing this is important? So like I'll send you articles and stuff because it was actually in our newspaper when it happened.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I'm actually really curious. I have an idea because I know where you're from. So I have an idea, but I don't know if that's the one I'm thinking of or not.
But overall, like that specific town is one of the most progressive towns in the area in which I live, like that surrounds where I live. So that's why I'm like, it happened. It was not, it was interesting. The good news is like I had a lot of support from the community. Like there was a lot of support, like, cause like that progressive thing, people were progressive. They just were like, what? Like this is a thing? Yeah, I didn't even know it was a thing either, and I'm the one over there in drag. So
well, you're saying town, and so I'm pretty sure I know what it is. It's not a borough, it's not a township, it's a town.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
I guess that's how much I can tell you.
I think I know what you're talking about now for one reason, and I'm not gonna say what it is. We can talk about it offline though, but I have an idea which one it is now. So what do you enjoy most about doing and performing drag, and what do you like least about it?
So most I get to live my fantasy. Like I love the feeling of feeling energy and power and telling a story. Like like when I get on stage, the minute that music hits, the minute I like get into that mindset, I'm giving so much you know, inspiration. I'm giving empowerment. I'm giving people something to feel joy about, something to actually like that moment of like, let your hair down. Drag shows and drag performers allow people to let their hair down. Like I let people like, can I dress up and go to your shows? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Just don't get on my stage. But absolutely, like, you like sell it, get it, earn it. And for me, like, I like seeing people smile. Like where I live, like there's an older group who've never been to drag shows, and like the younger millennials who are like, I want to bring my parents to it. And I'm like, well, how old is your parents? Oh, okay, they're boomers. That's great. We'll see how this goes. And they're one of the people to be like they're the ones up here like, yeah, I love this. Like, and I'm like, they're getting their life, they're feeling whatever in the air, and I'm loving it. And seeing all that excitement is just like, it brings so much joy to myself. Like it fuels me to want to do more. Yes, I'll give two reasons. The second reason is I have a voice in drag, right?
Okay.
When I demand attention, I can do it as Jake now. I've learned how to do that. Trixie demands attention, and drag has truly gave me that power to be like, hi, I'm here. I look sickening. I look good. Now that we got that out of the way, I have something to say. And I think that is one of the best things I can say why I love drag.
Awesome.
The things I really don't like about drag is I don't always like getting into drag. It's a lot of work. There are some days I'm just like, oh, I have to do all these things. Like makeup is okay. I'm always okay doing makeup. But like getting into different bodies. So like I have to put on like 7 pairs of tights and pads and cinchers, and like there's some of my outfits are really constricting. Some of them like you have to like get into them very carefully. And some of that is like, okay. And like heels after like 6 hours, more like 2, like they start hurting. That hurts. Like but like good thing it becomes a numbing pain.
I was Cruella de Vil for like maybe an hour at most, and I wanted to like cut off my feet.
There is that like reality of like drag's not, it looks good, we look fine. I'm glad you can. That's why when people give us compliments in drag, we're like, we're doing it right, because it takes a lot of work to get into it. So the other thing is like there is some backlash that happens in drag within like the LGBTQI plus community itself. Like it can get, it's like drag politics is what I call it, and depending on where you are, what that is, or what that looks like, that can get harmful in a way. Like you don't want to get to like drag drama, which I won't get into because I typically stay out of it, because I'm one of those actually nice queens that I'm like, okay, you don't like me, okay. Like I'm okay with that. Like I'm gonna go over here and do my own thing then, because that is the hard truth. Like that's another reason why I like, but and then I have moments of being judged harshly, harassed, and have had people say some awful things to me as like they drive by in their cars and they yell out slurs and stuff. Like I can't say I hate drag because of that, but it is like when I look like this and somebody says like, oh, they're so beautiful, but they want to hate me, like like that can get tiring sometimes too. It can make it unsafe and unreal, and that's another like but the pros definitely outbeat the cons for sure.
Awesome. So I'm gonna add another question in actually that I just thought of. So I mentioned I did Cruella de Vil, for Halloween. So people that cosplay, like, and I'm not saying cosplay as like Beast from Beauty and the Beast, or like, do Hades or any of that. I mean, I guess that could be part of drag if you want, but like, is cosplaying the same thing as drag, or are they different, and what makes them that way?
So I'm gonna have to say they're different. One, because I used to do cosplay and I still love cosplay. Like
I saw it.
I wish I do more. So like cosplay is everything, but I do have to say there are distinct differences. I will say when we think about characterizations, they're the same, right? So like a lot of the times cosplayers take a character and make that themselves. And who they are, that character. Drag is kind of the same way. We see ourselves in this persona and we become that persona, and there are those different, like we can, like I guess the similarity between cosplay and drag is we can always take it off. Like I can take it off. The difference though definitely comes down to the art and aspects to it. So like cosplay is highly more about characterization and fandom, right? So and they can cross over, like can't think of the drag queen's name. Derek exclamation point, like they combine drag and cosplay a lot. I combined drag and cosplay before, like they can go together, but when they're blended, sometimes like that changes. Is it drag or is it cosplay? It could be both sometimes. Because drag queens do characters, like Disney villains are a huge thing for drag queens, and a lot of drag kings I know, they go into the fandom of like Doctor Who and more sci-fi type characters. At least my friends and the people I know do. So like there is crossover. That doesn't necessarily make them the same. Again, drag is an art of performance. So in a way of like, we do get on stage, we do have different ways of expressing ourselves, and there can be crossover, but the distinct difference of how I know is when I'm in cosplay, I'm a character, right? Like I look at myself as that character, but I look at myself of who I am in that character. When I'm in drag, I'm not a character to myself. I'm an expression, an extension of who I am. And that's really the difference, like for myself and how I understand cosplay and drag. That's the difference.
Right. It makes a lot of sense. So have you won any awards for performing in drag?
So I've never, so when it comes to awards, I'm a pageant queen. I've competed, yay. So my most proud title I won was the Miss Northeastern Pennsylvania Pride Fest of 2019 and 2020. I just gave that crown up actually last weekend, so it was a step down, which is great. And I was like the Queen of Pride for the NEPA, and that was so cool and so nice. I've won a local bar title for Miss Mount Holly. I've also actually been nominated for influencer of like the region in the area for our local other ones. I did not get it, but at least I was nominated, so that was
there you go. At least you were nominated. Still plus.
And when I competed for Miss Gay Pennsylvania America, I placed top 4 out of state, so that was a state competition I got 4th on. It wasn't a win, but placing top 4 at a state competition drag is a big deal.
It really is. I mean, Pennsylvania, believe it or not, a lot of people don't realize this, but Pennsylvania is pretty darn big. So yeah, like placing 4th is a really big accomplishment for that. So congrats on all that. Yep. So last question. Do you have any upcoming drag appearances that you would like to promote to the listening viewing audiences? So at least those that are local anyways can come out and support you.
So my next one is actually going to be in Pottsville. It's their Pride on July 17th. I have ones throughout the whole year, but so I can't think of them all at the top of my head, but I perform in towns like Danville and Bloomsburg and Wilkes-Barre, Scranton. I've gone, I have one in Virginia, actually, at Virginia Beach on August 21st with Jennifer Warner and Harvey Daniels. Amazing drag queens I absolutely love. So my local ones I perform a little bit more because I'm local, but I do go out of Pennsylvania. I know there's one out in Pittsburgh I'm working on making sure I can get out there and do stuff. So I do go out of state, but at the same time I try to stay in my state because the more I build in my state, it helps me get connected on outside.
Absolutely. Right. I would say stop by and see me when you're on your way to Virginia, but I'll be in Pennsylvania filming that day. I'm like, crap.
Our schedules seem to never match.
I will
I will plug in like also my my Jake side, Jacob Kelly Queer Education. I know we briefly mentioned about like my education and stuff like that is also growing. I have my own Facebook and Instagram. I'm working on my website. I actually just started my own video content with the Rainbow Alliance here. It's Juicy with Jake. It's all about positive, queer, inclusive sex education. So,
awesome. Well, if I will throw out there, if you do need any help on your website, you know where to find me. Got me. I thank you so much, Trixy, for joining me. It's been an honor. It's been so much fun. I really, I learned a lot. And I mean, I'm in the community and I didn't know as much as I thought I did. So I learned a lot, and I'm hoping the people watching this have learned a lot and how to respect people, based on their pronouns and their sexuality and their gender identity and all that. But I do thank you for taking the time to do this interview. It's been so much fun, and it's been an honor to talk to you again.
Thank you so much. I can't thank you enough for this opportunity. I hope anyone that's listening My name is Trixy, Trixy, Valentine, like the holiday if you're looking for me, just so that's a thing. But no,
Definitely.
I do have to thank you. I loved this. This is a great conversation.
It definitely was. And I know with the free Zoom, I can't, it'll take away our name tags or whatever, but I always edit in there and I put the name tags in there. So I'll make sure that your name is there for anybody that that they don't have to keep rewinding it to see if they how to spell it if they don't remember. So they will be able to see it right in the corner of the entire interview. I'll make sure that's taken care of. But I thank you so much. You have a great rest of your night, Trixie.
Thank you so much, Scotty.
Yep. Bye.